一刷根39大林邦呀，当当当当啊巴扎呀扎呀。
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Madhavi Reddy. I am from Hyderabad, India, and basically my experimenting ground is my farm. It's a 5th generation farm that I'm working on. I couldn't trace it back more than that, but I believe that there's history there. So I do a lot of things. So the farm story itself would be a couple of hours, but that's not what I'm talking about. But just to give you a background, that for the last 11 years, I've been trying to apply permaculture principles on the ground. I mainly grow perennials, but I also do paddy, and in the past we've also done millets, and it's a peri-urban farm very close to Hyderabad, and I try and also market and sell my produce in Hyderabad. I really believe in the whole tag for local, vocal for local, and that's a poster that a friend of mine made when I took my mangoes to the market. So I sell my own produce, and so this is my experimenting ground. But and that's where we are, Telangana, and that's my state and how it looks in India, just to kind of give you a context. And most of the work that I do actually is in the Northeast right now, but I've taught all over India and also online. In 2020, me and my colleague Kurtz, who you might have seen, one of the classroom volunteers. So both of us very interested in the Northeast because of our travels, and we came together under an umbrella called Teaching Where It Matters. And as you know, permaculture teaching matters everywhere, but we are a registered non-profit, and that's our little logo. And so we came up with our own vision, mission, and what we wanted to do, how we wanted to bring permaculture education to more remote areas. Because you all know that the dollar parity or the money parity is very different, right? Not everybody from remote areas can come to a central place to learn. So how do we go to them? That became our kind of USP? USP? Yeah, USP. And these are all the stats. I actually started my journey just by teaching one session at a time. As Bablu said, I was part of the teaching team at farm school as well. So little by little, and then COVID hit, we did a lot of online introduction courses. And currently, right now, we're doing two PDCs online and through gift economy. So we're breaking and questioning some of the barriers to education. And that's our little effort to do it. And what I'm going to be talking about is some of the work that we've done in the Northeast. So mainly we've worked in Darjeeling, which is in West Bengal. It's a gateway to the Northeast. Nagaland and Manipur. Manipur, as some of you might have known, there was a civil war recently. I don't want to kind of go there, but anyway. So this part of India is really not connected in many ways. And there is a lot of political things happening there. As you all know, the different neighbors, we've got China, Myanmar, Bangladesh, different neighbors there as well. So these are some images from our PDCs, and this was Manipur, Darjeeling, this was Nagaland, and this was a foundation that's in one of the most remote parts of Nagaland that I've been to, and the army is around They're pretty much everywhere. So this was in that area. Again, just to kind of show you some images in the different. So what I wanted to ask you was, what comes to your mind when you think of the word transition? What comes to your mind? Transition. Shift. Shift. Yeah. Anything else? Change. Response. Transform.
Moving from good to bad or bad to good.
So for me, this image that I took somewhere in 2009 or 10 actually shows you, for me this is transition. The elderly behind and the young people in the forward. So there is this connection to the past and the future, and this is the transition generation, as I call them. I have been to a festival in Nagaland called the Hornbill Festival, which is, everybody is in their beautiful attires and they're perfect, right? Because these are people from the cultural troops and things like that. To me, this was transition. You're wearing t-shirts, then you've got your traditional headwear or beads or something. And this was in a festival that I participated in, one of the tribes. This was not a cultural festival, this was their festival. Just some images. They grow rice, they have bounty of vegetables, they are a thriving community, they're again a transitioning community. And some of you might recognize the colors. They're so similar. And what we kind of did was, we actually trusted the design process to ensure that we are designing something that they need. So we took our time. We call it the pre-PDC, then the pre-PDC, and then the PDC. And this is really using small and slow solutions. We're not rushing through. In fact, right now we're working with an NGO in Assam, and we're doing a field survey with 197 villages to know what we are going to go teach them. So in fact, it might take us more time than we thought about. Keeping in mind all the ethics and principles, the global change, all of that. And this, our hosts are the Northeast Network. This is a women's rights NGO which works in 7 states in the Northeast. And this was our program. And as you can see, for a 6-month course, what the fee was. Again, breaking a barrier in terms of who can come and participate. This course paid for itself as well. So making sure the economies work. And some of the work that we did was to get from NEN what projects are they doing on the ground. So just to show you what they had shared with us, and these are some of the projects, and if you guys need more, but just so that the dialogue starts before we go in, we handheld them through the process, and we make sure that they understand what's needed, so on, so that, because they might have never hosted something like this for so many days. And so we had an initiation phase for the 6-month diploma, where we had an on-site 10 days. Then we went through a mentoring program, which is also online sessions, so on-site, online, twice a month. And then we had again an on-site program, which was what we call the enabling phase. So initiation, mentoring, reinforcement, and enabling phase. And just to kind of give you an idea, some of the whole behind the scenes things, but a lot of work actually went behind the scenes. Pre-PDC. But again, following the curriculum, we're not moving away from the curriculum, we stick to it, we know what is needed, but we also make sure that we are looking at their needs. So one of the big things that came up was the fact that they work, this is an NGO, they've got programs on ground, they get grants, they get funds, and they are working more and more with the SDGs. So how do you then take this evolving words and how do you incorporate them, and that was the big thing. So we actually took the SDGs down to the principles, and we made sure that this was understood. We took our time, again, small and slow. We went through the process. We knew who our learners were. We had a detailed profile of our learners. Again, through technology, they wrote to a Google form, all the information. And this was just to kind of share with you the same spirals that you see in your PDCs, but then connecting back to the SDGs. And they did these exercises. And they're different learners, different profiles, as I said. So we made sure that everybody was included. Language can be a barrier. In fact, in one of our PDCs, we had somebody who couldn't read and write. But that was another PDC. But anyway, a lot of hands-on. Kutz and I are both Rosemary Moreau's students, so we don't do the PPTs. Even Narsana used to roll his eyes at my PPT presentations, so I moved away from PPTs. And lots of hands-on, lots of use of community resources, local resources. This was a building that was given to us by the community. Again, as you got this land to share, we got a community, huge space which was not being utilized. And in fact, that was one of the projects. How do you use it better? How do we bring, again, all of our participants are from different parts of Naga, from different tribes, and perhaps also speak different languages as well. So how do you create community within the community as well? So we had three states represented. These were some of the projects that they did, and I'll show you a list of the projects. Again, lots of hands-on. There was no electricity few days, so we said no PPDs, because again, remember, these are all NGO workers, so they do have PPDs to play with. And so this was the end of the 10-day phase, and this was the start of our online reinforcement. We had a learning management system, so we had a lot of the resources on. So we had an online Zoom twice a month, 3 hours, so 6 hours monthly. But during that time, they had assignments to do. They had assignments to send back. They had projects to give back. All of the recordings were online in case they missed. But they also had to have attendance. It was a big part of giving them the certification is attendance, involvement, participation. They, in general, sometimes are very quiet people. So how do you encourage that? And one of the carrot to the stick. And we organized them. A lot of the videos from the country, across the world, all of these were given to them. And this was one resource they had online. They can still access some of the information if they want to go back and look at it. And the next part was, again, coming back on site. This was the teacher training. Now this is the enablement phase, where we were reinforcing not only the learnings, but now how do they take back this to the community? So these are all young people for me, these are young people in transition. Looking back and looking ahead, perhaps sometimes also confused, perhaps sometimes also questioning a lot of things. What are they going to do? Where are they going to go? They all come, most of them come also from a social education background. There is an institute in India, the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. So a lot of the NGO folks come from that. So again, educated in the cities, coming back. And then there's us, two people from the mainland trying to facilitate this conversation. So that's
Something we kept in mind very consciously is different learning styles. So these are with permission of Rosemary Moreau. We actually had the teacher training guide given to them. We printed it. The other books that you see, these are things that we designed. We designed Catch and Store is a workbook they take. Knowledgescapes is a lot of material, reading material. Again, keeping in mind that some of them are more visual and they read more than they speak. So we kind of kept in mind these are for them to take home. So these were the resources they had apart from all the online resources. So, and this is all the field guides they can keep and lots of reflections. They're very shy as well to share. So we said, well, this is for you. You write, and this is for you. The reflections are for you. They're not for us. It's not homework. So there was a lot of unlearning for them. Because the school learning is all about the teachers coming, giving check marks and all that. And we kind of made sure that that was not who we were. We were very conscious of that. As you can see, lots of paper was used, but we mulched it. Lots of, again, community resources. After the harvest, we used a lot of the terrace lands for practicing the water harvesting, all the other things. And food was also local. Building confidence, something that we saw, some of the young women would not speak. And within the group, they also had folks who were their bosses, and then they were working for them. So how do you actually break that barrier as well? That's also a way of making sure that they are free to speak and creating a community. And something that we did at the end, nearly at the end of all of our PDCs, was a very deep sharing session. And some of the conversations that came out were also trauma. Again, this is a region which has had military occupation or police occupation, or they have laws which are very strict. So there was a young woman in our PDC, one of our PDCs in Manipur, who was actually taken to jail when she was 17 years old. So how do you actually teach permaculture to somebody who's also in transition in her mental space? As I mentioned, many different tribes make up Nagaland. And then within the major tribes, there are sub-tribes, which means that in a country of 26 states, and I don't even know how many dialects, we have this one state, many tribes, and then sub-tribes. So not only teaching in Nagamese, which is a connected language for them, created language, but also their local dialects. Very important. And this young woman actually comes from the community. And she's a videographer in the team, but how do you bring her out of her shell? Her parents are still farmers. She's working for an NGO. And one of, I would say, somebody who started speaking. Lele, that's her name. Again, them doing all the micro teachings, a lot of modeling, again, community resources, whatever was around, whatever they could do and as you can see, now they also know their audience, right? Written language is not there in all the tribes. So how do you use visuals? How do you use gestures? How do you use storytelling? How do you actually make the things very clear? So this was them doing the micro-teach again. What community resources can they use to actually share the knowledge? So these are some of the things. Their final presentations was not to us, not to me and Kutz. It was to their larger board and to the community. And most of the community that came were women, supporting women. This NGO also runs a lot of programs. I'll do injustice if I actually speak about Nen's work here, because that'll take another two hours. But women run seed banks, women run programs, they run a cooperative called Chizami Weaves. So amazing work. I won't do justice to that. But again, so their final presentations were to the community and NGO leaders. And one of them actually flew down all the way from Delhi, and she's in her 70s, retiring, so she wanted to see this. So a lot of criteria. We didn't take any shortcuts. So there was attendance, assignments, projects, on-site requirements, participation. Coming on Zoom, on camera was a struggle. That itself became, they had to come and chill. We had designed peer learning, where they could learn with each other, do projects with each other, and also, again, making sure that we don't keep bosses and employees together. Or maybe the other way around, where the team leader is actually somebody working for things like that. So kind of make sure that they are learning equally. And a lot of the progress trackers were sent back again to the folks in the organization. We used a lot of NBC and PMI scales, things like that. All of this is available if any of you are interested. We also sent the report to the NEN board, but also to Rosemary Moreau. This is the first design, which is a policy. We want to break away from land-based designs. We want them to talk about policy. Policy dictates their day-to-day life. So they came up with about the different policies and what they wanted to do, how they wanted to change. It could be a small thing from home to a youth program. They do a lot of youth programs. They run something called the NEN Farm School, and they've been doing it for years. So they redesigned the curriculum knowing that it was not enough. Why is that? We have to push for people to come to that school. Can we look at the agenda? So I'm just going to go through some of the things. So the resource center that I showed you, where the Women's Resource Center lies empty today. So they actually did projects on, and these are live projects. These are not dummy projects. As we sit here, they are being implemented. They are being refined. Kuts and I don't believe in dummy projects. Absolutely, it's a waste of energy to do dummy projects. So we actually made them make sure that these are, and they worked with the community. Another important thing is their own design. And we kept that information private because we wanted to make sure that the trust is there, that they can share with us what is that they want to do and what they don't want to do. Maybe they don't want to work for this NGO anymore, but we felt it was important that they are comfortable to do their own design. And community projects, they have access to a lot of forests, and by law we can take non-timber products from the forest. And in fact, we kind of said, I remembered Bablu's soap story. If you create your own soap, how much do you? So that was one of the projects. It's a live project. This is a livelihood project that's going on, and there is schools all around in the area in Chizami where they are based. One of the group is based, so they actually designed an edible school garden for both the primary and the secondary school. Livelihood projects taking the SDGs into account and looking at the livelihood projects. So they, as I mentioned, they have a women's weavers collective. They looked at that. They looked at community seed banks. They looked at something that they felt. This is not, we didn't bring this forward. The young women in the group brought out the fact that mental health for informal workers. So informal workers are folks who perhaps are sitting in the cities of Nagaland towns and they're selling their vegetables. They felt that it was very important, and this was to retrofit some of the mental health programs they had. The leadership programs, as I mentioned, the N-Farm school and things. So that's the work they did. And then these are, so that's the whole change in the curriculum. They went through a whole change in curriculum and looking at different projects. A lot of young people in that area migrate to the city. A lot. I mean, walking in Bangalore into a restaurant, walking into a restaurant in Hyderabad, we actually see young people from the Northeast. The salons, restaurants, Swiggy drivers. How do you create employment back so that they can work in their community? And COVID was a big transitioning point. That it actually awakened a lot of the community leaders to say, what can we do? So this came out of that conversation within the community. And this is a PDC that we did in Nagaland. You can see the soil. And actually what you can't see is also this whole mountain here burning. This is traditional practice of shifting agriculture. Slash and burn, right? Now, Kuts and I don't come from this area. But we also know ecologically they are not doing it how it was done 75 years ago. But we couldn't come out and say, it's not right. We knew it, but that had to come from within the community themselves. Questioning based on all the ecology principles that we went through in the PDC. So how do you facilitate the conversations versus teach it? So some of the things that both of us had to be very conscious about is our body language, what I tend to do, how I stand. Every time I stood up, I would get a little sign from the back, sit down. Because standing up and speaking is something that they're very used to. Then I become the center of authority, power, and showing that this is, you need to learn from me kind of thing. So I had to always go, and I would go, my knees and my back and things like that. But that was very important. Like learning how to sit and chair, circle. Again, they have hierarchy. How do you break that hierarchy? How do you bring gender back, gender disparity? In fact, this group we had to say, no, the men have to come to the PDC. The men have to come to the program because they are gender rights organization. So we made sure the men were also there. And I think that's very important. When we talk about gender, it can't be just women being strong and the sisterhood, but the brotherhood also has to come, the fatherhood has to come. We need them to support their sisters, their mothers and their daughters and their wives. So it was very important for us to have that. And as I mentioned, it's the needs of the community versus the curriculum. We did not move away from the curriculum. We kept the curriculum. In fact, we added to it. As you can see, it was a 6-month program. But we made sure that it was coming from them. What do they need? What are the tools that they need? So the whole program was designed based on that pre-PDC survey and analysis, going through the whole study map. And there was one more instance where there was this conversation about hunting in the area, and they were very apologetic about it. So it was like, is it hunting or is it overhunting? They have to come up with those words. Because now if you go into the community saying you can't hunt, they're going to get, they can't do that. So like, what words do you choose? What words do we choose became very important. We did not go there as experts. I mean, I only know this much about that land. Maybe Kutz knows maybe this much because he's been traveling through that land for 20 some years and he lives there now. But how do we actually recognize that going in? I myself come from the mainland, but I've lived and worked in the US for 17 years. So I come from a little bit of change in my mindset as well. Same thing with Kutz. He's lived and worked in Asia, Europe, America. So we got to be very conscious about how we, now you saw like my hand in my pocket, that also becomes a huge body language thing. So always being conscious about how we actually present ourselves. So that was the end. And we're still in the post-PDC phase. We've actually sent the report. So a lot of report writing. It was not done. We sent the report, we got feedback from the report. Some of the projects we continue to mentor them, but not too much. We don't want them to be dependent upon what we think is right. Sometimes you have to fail to move forward as well. And then right now we just finished an inline survey with them for impact and analysis. What do we do forward? And this was anonymous as well, if they did not feel comfortable sharing, who it's coming from. That's one thing in India, they like, well, I shouldn't generalize, but in general, if you're giving feedback, they like to be a little anonymous. Thank you. Thank you, Madhavi. If there are any questions, if you want to know more, please let me know. I can share.
Your booklets were in English.
I'm sorry?
All your booklets were in English.
Yes.
Would they understand?
Yes, they all come from an English-speaking read. In fact, they were more comfortable reading and writing versus the verbal. They were not confident about that. So, but we made sure that they also are comfortable in their own languages to teach, because that's what we can't do. Both of us can't go all across India and teach in Marathi and Kannada, and I had people laughing at me when I was trying to teach in Telugu. Bablu's daughter has to say, you need to brush up. So yeah, we want permaculture to move forward in a subcontinent like India. We have to enable them. But yeah, all of our written stuff is in English, and a lot of it comes from different ways of learning. So outdoor experiential learning that Kutz brings to the table. I bring the hands-on and some my farm experience. But yeah, and this is Rose's work, the book that she shares with all the permaculture teachers. So we took permission, we printed, we shared. She was more than happy to. You know how she is. Yeah. And by the way, a little plug for myself. I designed all these logos. Any questions for us? Kutz is here too, so yeah, if there's anything we can share.
I think I can add to one project now. I think the name Farm School, what I run, has got funded to a pretty sizable budget to do 18 months cross-state farm school with the agricultural practices, but again to permaculture design. So some of the team is already working on it. That's one of the new developments.
Yeah, these are all live projects. And a lot of government money also goes into some of their programs. So we didn't share this here, but the whole different forms of capital. We had a huge session on making sure that their projects fund for themselves. We can't keep going to go get funds. So how do you make these projects bring back the dollars and the rupees into the community, and it stays in the community as well. So a lot of learning about monetary, the financial part of the budgeting, which is very critical. I mean, they're very familiar with it, but how to make money from this was something that we emphasized.
And one more thing to add is every participant was a first generation educated in Japan. All their parents, farmers, ever since school. Because of 150 years of Christianity, a lot of things have gone wrong, so they lost a lot of traditional practices, people left worshipping land, acknowledging land to import religion. They all could speak English. And a lot of the farmers, they can speak English, they can't read it. Because it's interesting. And this first generation educated children of farmers. And they're trying to make a change. Okay. The second thing is, this is a very small percentage. Majority of them still migrate. And that's something, the next level of the 18 months program at 10 Farm School, which is going to plug the gap by creating more permaculture educators at grassroots level across the state. And that's probably like a 200 plus educators, youth, some of them come to youth conference.
So, kind of leading in, or even answering my question, which was about how old is the program, and like, are you seeing those next generation results, like what's happening with those people who are going through that, and how they're now interacting in their communities?
So the NEN Farm School includes the elders as well. So they give due credit to the knowledge that comes from the previous generation. So in the 7-day program, they've got, because they're working farmers, so they keep that in mind and they bring back. They're doing a lot of work also with millet rejuvenation in that area. It's their crop which they lost and they brought back 30 years back, but they're trying to popularize it again among the young people. So making the cookies and the cakes and the breads again through workshops, so that it's also remember I was talking about this mental health project among women. So they also then go and sell these products as well. So they are looking at the whole chain of it. Yeah. So elders are included in it.
The mental health project has been implemented across 2,000 women who are street vendors. And the two people from the community, from that particular non-profit called Self-Help Women Workers. And so they're kind of tied up with multiple mental health institutions who can do that thing. Because there's a lot of generational trauma in this world.
Yeah.
Hardly ever. We don't really support that because we're not mental health practitioners who can skill for that. But I think some of these participants can reach out to us, okay, you cannot stop.
Yeah. Some of the PTSD is pretty obvious sometimes, but yeah, there's only so much we can handle. But during the mentoring phase, so we had a one-on-one mentoring phase, which could be unrelated to the course. We opened the doors for any conversation, and a lot of it was financial help. Like the women in the program were all actually the breadwinners of the family now.
So even if they didn't want to work, they kind of had to work. So their financial literacy and what they could do to understand money became a big part. So they all would go, where can I get this information? How do I do simple things like saving? What programs are out there? So that one-on-one mentoring actually brought out a lot more that we didn't get in the pre surveys. Because again, these are private conversations and so that was very interesting to see what do they bring out. It was about confidence, how do I speak, what can I learn, how do I better my English sometimes, vocabulary, things like that, which was sometimes for us very simple. But again, putting ourselves in their shoes.
Question.
Yeah.
English, assumably being the common language in India, do you create parallel curriculums or parallel writings, like in your pamphlets, some that are in English and some that are in one of the local languages if you're targeting a local community?
No, we haven't. We're a two-man team. Just the two of us. Two people team. Yeah. Two people. No, we haven't. But as I mentioned, the thing is, in a tribal community, they actually can't even afford to do one language. Then it becomes, oh, you big tribe suppressing us kind of thing. So there is a lot of neutrality that needs to be walked through. Nagamis, which is spoken in Nagaland, was a created language to bring them all together. It didn't exist 100 years back. It's post-independence. So it was basically to make sure that the Mon tribe spoke to the Chizami tribe and the Kanyaks so they have their own languages. And then within the tribe, then there are sub-tribes to speak their own dialects as well. Who become huge project for us if we undertook something. Yeah. But yeah, it's English then, yeah.
Question related to the case you said that actually the tribe, they had some kind of the police occupied or dictated the area previously. So could you share a little bit more about how permaculture might help they overcome or they might change their views on this?
So I mean, there's a long history to Nagaland and that whole region being under occupation and transition. I wouldn't do justice to it, but the Indian Army is highly present in that area. And it's evident sometimes, but the community kind of works with them as well. They're not, like for example, when we were at one of the PDCs in Nagaland, the army folks came for something that was missing in there. The army had to cook their own food. They're pretty remote areas. So they came to borrow some oil from us. So, and something that I remembered from that Rosemary had said, Ro had said long time back, I did my teacher training with her in Kashmir, which is another, transition area. And she said we need to do permaculture with the army people because you could see them in the streets and stuff. So the community there doesn't have an antagonistic. So the care for people and care for the, that's there in people. They would never refuse somebody food, or during COVID time it became more apparent. So in general, they're, like somebody said the other day, the world works because there are good people on the planet. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. But in terms of history, we can share some resources, but seriously, we wouldn't be able to do justice to what has gone through. This is also an area which went through the World War II. They have cemeteries there. They were part of the World War II aggression. They had the Japanese occupation as well. So there's a lot. And I myself know only this much about that area.
You're doing amazing work, inspiring. But I thought this was the crime.
If you want. But we did have that in our, so after building trust, the last half of the PDCs, we do have circle nights in the night, and especially in Manipur and Nagaland, there's a lot of trauma came out, and sometimes it feels a bit hollow because we can't do justice in 13, 14, 15 days or even in 6 months to address this, like Put said, it's generational. So how do you then keep, and that's why we feel we don't have all the resources to do the ongoing mentoring or ongoing help, but it did come out, it came out a lot. And in Manipur, the PDC that we did with 26 people last whole year, there are 2 different groups in Manipur that fought. So now our PDC actually has 2 different groups. So are we able to go back and bridge that gap, or do they take the steps? And they want 2 of the students who actually married after the PDC. So, you know, little matchmaking happened at the PDC. They're doing some programs for children in there.
In camps. In refugee camps.
In refugee camps. Internally displaced within their own state. And there's a lot of anger, a lot of sorrow that nobody supported them and stuff. We are sitting there down south. So yeah, we couldn't travel to that area. But within their own, they are trying to do stuff. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Histoire que